At the beginning of the story, we are introduced to Princess Barbara, who has fallen deeply in love with Prince Edward. The funny part is, Barbara has never actually met Edward, and she has never even seen him in person. She only knows him through his adventure books, and by writing letters back and forth with him. Today is Barbara's birthday, so the entire kingdom is busy preparing for a huge celebration. But King Elijah has a problem of his own. His robot assistant, Theodore, suddenly stops working, so Elijah takes Theodore into his lab and pours magical water onto the crystal inside him. Instantly, Theodore powers back on and starts working again. Just then, 3 servants rush in and tell Elijah that Princess Barbara is missing. They've searched everywhere, but no one can find her. Panicked, Elijah immediately runs off with the servants to look for her. In his hurry, he forgets to lock away the magical water. Even the magical light bulb tries to close the locker, but it fails. Meanwhile, Barbara is hiding away with her little glowing friend Bulby, reading one of Edward's adventure books. It has been a long time since Edward sent her a letter, and feeling lonely, Barbara starts imagining him beside her while singing a romantic song. Elijah soon finds her and enters the room with the servants. The moment Barbara sees them, she quickly pretends to be reading something normal, but in her panic, the adventure book slips from her hands and falls to the floor. The second Elijah sees the book, he gets furious. He orders his robot servant Stephen to burn it immediately, and also tells the post office never to send another one of those adventure books to the royal palace again. At the same time, somewhere in the forest, a mailman is attacked by a terrifying monster. Frightened, he runs back to the post office and tells everyone that the creature stole all the mail he was carrying. The only thing left is Princess Barbara's letter, but he refuses to ever deliver mail to the royal palace again. The other mailmen refuse too, because the palace road passes through that dangerous forest where the monster lives. But one young junior postman named Joyce bravely decides to take the letter himself. Back at the palace, a servant helps Barbara get dressed for her birthday celebration, but they make her wear an old-fashioned dress. Barbara hates it and starts arguing with Stephen about how awful it looks. Just then, Joyce arrives at the palace with the letter. Barbara sneaks away from Stephen and rushes over to him. Joyce secretly admits that he always reads the letters between Barbara and Edward. Then he shamelessly tells her that if she doesn't kiss him, he'll tell her father that she has been secretly sending letters to Edward. Suddenly, Stephen appears and tries to snatch the letter away. Barbara runs, trying to protect it, but the letter slips from her hand. The letter lands right on the throne, where Elijah picks it up and reads it. He becomes furious once again. Barbara tries to explain that she truly loves Edward. Elijah tells her that she just turned 16 and is still only a child. No matter what she says, he refuses to let her go to Prince Edward. He reminds her that the celebration is about to begin and orders her to get ready before walking away. To upset her father, Barbara punishes herself by cutting up the dress and even chopping her hair short. Meanwhile, Joyce wanders through the palace and accidentally enters Elijah's lab. There, he discovers the magical water. Curious, he picks up the bottle and starts examining it. But suddenly Elijah walks in. Joyce panics, and the bottle slips from his hands onto the floor. A massive burst of energy explodes through the room, shutting off all the power nearby. But after a moment, everything returns to normal. Elijah desperately asks Joyce to hand over the bottle, but Joyce refuses. Instead, he threatens to spill the magical water unless Elijah gives him money. Elijah becomes nervous and tells him he has no idea how powerful that bottle really is. He promises to give Joyce anything he wants, as long as he hands it over safely. Joyce starts thinking hard and then gets a crazy idea. Instead of money, he decides he wants to marry Princess Barbara. So he boldly tells Elijah that he wants her hand in marriage. Soon, the birthday party begins, and Barbara enters in front of all the guests, but everyone is shocked by her appearance. Elijah tells her that the dress belonged to her mother, which is why he asked her to wear it every birthday. But now she has ruined it. Barbara feels terrible after hearing that. Then Elijah makes a shocking announcement to everyone. He says the real reason he invited them all is for his daughter's wedding. Princess Barbara is going to marry the junior postman Joyce. Everyone is stunned. Even Barbara cannot understand why her father suddenly decided this. Joyce happily walks onto the stage and starts talking about the marriage like it's already settled, but Barbara has no intention of marrying him, so she calls for her horse, jumps onto it, and escapes from the royal palace. Joyce quickly grabs his bike and races after her, but while chasing her, he gets tangled in Barbara's scarf and crashes to the ground. Barbara rides deep into the forest to escape, but after going some distance, she crashes into a tree and gets knocked unconscious. Joyce soon catches up, stuffs Barbara into a sack, and starts dragging her away. But suddenly, a giant monster appears. His name is Bogey. The second Joyce sees him, he is terrified. He drops Barbara and runs for his life. While escaping, Joyce falls off a cliff, and the magical water bottle slips from his hand. One drop of the water lands on a crystal nearby, causing it to glow brightly. When Joyce touches the crystal, a powerful shock blasts through him, and one of his arms stops working completely. Joyce is left stunned and confused. Meanwhile, Bogey carries Barbara back to his cave. The next morning, Barbara wakes up and starts looking around the cave with Bulby. Suddenly, Bogey wakes up too. Barbara tries to calmly leave, but Bogey blocks her path and refuses to let her go. Bogey's rabbit companion tells Barbara that she is a princess, and if they return her to the royal palace, King Elijah will reward them with a lot of money. But Barbara knows if she goes back home, she'll be forced to marry Joyce. So she tells them she doesn't want to return to the palace. She wants to go meet Prince Edward instead. The rabbit ignores everything she says and ties up her hands. Back at the palace, Elijah is heartbroken over Barbara's disappearance. He orders Stephen to print newspapers announcing that the princess is missing. Just then, Joyce arrives and claims that Bogey kidnapped Barbara. He says if Elijah wants to save her, he must explain how the magical water works. Elijah reveals that it is called spark water, a special liquid that can bring life to lifeless objects. He used it to create all of his robot servants. But when Barbara was born, she was extremely weak, and they needed life water to save her. After searching the forest for a long time, they finally found the life water pond. Legend said no one had ever dared to take water from it. But for Barbara's sake, Elijah took one bottle anyway. The moment he did, a violent earthquake struck the area. They barely escaped alive, and the path leading to the pond was completely destroyed. Joyce gets an idea. He says if they use the life water to build a powerful robot army, Bogey won't stand a chance, and they can rescue Barbara easily. Elijah agrees, and together they begin creating dozens of robots. They pour life water into crystals and place them inside metal bodies, bringing the robots to life. Joyce even builds himself a robotic arm, but they don't have a crystal strong enough to power a flying robot. So Joyce removes Theodore's crystal and places it inside the machine. Elijah feels terrible seeing Theodore sacrificed like that. Still, with Barbara in danger, they have no other option. Elijah says nothing. Joyce sends the flying robot and the rest of the robot army out to search for Barbara. Meanwhile, Bogey and the rabbit are dragging Barbara back toward the royal palace. Furious, Barbara starts insulting them the whole way. Bogey tries to cover her mouth, but Barbara bites his hand. Startled, Bogey falls into the river. The rabbit jumps in to help him, but neither of them can swim, and a waterfall is straight ahead. Bulby quickly unties Barbara's hands. Barbara ties one end of a rope to a rock and hangs the other from a tree. As soon as Bogey grabs it, Barbara throws the rock into the river, pulling both Bogey and the rabbit safely to shore. Barbara then proudly tells them that this whole forest belongs to her father, so they must obey her orders or be punished. Bogey gets angry hearing that. He grabs Barbara and carries her high onto a mountain. There, he tells her that humans think living in castles means they understand the whole world, but they don't know anything. Mother Nature existed long before kings and princesses, and all life grows because of her. From the mountain peak, Barbara sees the glowing life water pond far in the distance, bursting with energy. Barbara finally understands what he means. She says that compared to Mother Nature, she is just an ordinary person, but if Bogey doesn't help her, her life will be ruined. Then she breaks down crying. Bogey feels bad for her and finally agrees to help take her to Prince Edward. Barbara is overjoyed, and the group happily continues their journey while she sings along the way. That night, the three of them stop in a cave to rest. By now, Bogey has started developing feelings for Barbara, and the rabbit notices it immediately. He asks Bogey about it, but Bogey refuses to say a word. Barbara starts mocking Bogey by copying the way he talks and moves. It really hurts his feelings, so he quietly leaves the cave and heads toward the life water pond. The rabbit tells Barbara not to worry. He says Bogey just needs some time alone and will be fine soon. Then Barbara asks how he and Bogey first met. The rabbit explains that Bogey was once human, just like her. When he was a child, he got separated from his parents and became lost in the forest. During a heavy snowfall, he was freezing to death. But Mother Nature saved him by transforming him into Bogey, the sweet monster. Since then, Bogey has protected the forest and all the animals living there. He stops people from cutting down trees so the forest can stay green and alive. Barbara asks that if they protect the forest, then why do they scare travelers and steal from them? And what do they even need money for? The rabbit says if they stop scaring people away, humans will come into the forest and leave trash everywhere, causing harm to the animals. And as for money, they don't love it at all. They just enjoy watching it burn. Then he casually throws a bill into the fire. Soon they both fall asleep. Meanwhile, Joyce's robot army reaches the cave area and starts searching for them. The next morning, Barbara notices Bogey is gone, so she and the rabbit head out to look for him. But suddenly, a robot dog spots them and charges straight at Barbara. Just in time, the rabbit drops a giant rock on it and smashes the machine. The rabbit says that her father created this robot, and from the look of it, the machine was trying to kill her. He says King Elijah must be a terrible man. Barbara quickly defends her father. She says the rabbit knows nothing about him. Even if Elijah built the robot, that doesn't make him evil. Once he was attacked by wolves and left badly injured. Elijah found him, brought him to the lab, and replaced his heart with a crystal to save his life. Because of that crystal, he survived, but he never wanted this kind of life. His own children are scared of him now. He says he isn't a living creature anymore, just a machine. Barbara gently tells him that he is not a robot. He has a soul, and that is what truly matters. Hearing those words makes the rabbit emotional, and he hugs her. Just then, a giant robot suddenly appears. Barbara and the rabbit jump onto a tree trunk and try to escape, but they nearly fall into the life water pond. At the last second, Bogey arrives and saves them. The giant robot falls into the pond instead. Using the flying robot, Joyce discovers Barbara's location and the life water pond. He immediately locks Elijah in a cage and marches into the forest with his robot army. On the way, he finds Bogey's home and sets it on fire. Meanwhile, Barbara and her friends finally reach the city where Prince Edward is supposed to live. As a goodbye gift, the rabbit gives Barbara his copper whistle. The three share one final hug, and Barbara enters the city with Bulby. She follows Edward's address, expecting to find a palace, but instead, she arrives at a book printing office. There, she meets the writer of Prince Edward's adventure books, a woman named Edwardina. Edward explains that she originally wrote adventure stories under her own name, but nobody bought them, so she invented Prince Edward as a fake identity and published the books under his name instead. People loved the stories, and Edward became famous. But in reality, Prince Edward doesn't exist at all. She also reveals that the letters Barbara received were not personal. The same letters were being sent to every girl who admired Edward. Workers all around the office are shown preparing those letters. Barbara is devastated. She finally realizes Edward was never real, just a fictional character. Her heart completely breaks. Then Edward's manager shows her a newspaper article saying Princess Barbara ran away from her wedding, and King Elijah is offering a huge reward for finding her. Greedy for the reward money, Edward decides to keep Barbara trapped in the office. Barbara begs her not to send her home. She says if she returns, her father will force her to marry that awful postman, and her whole life will be ruined. Edward Tiln tells her she's worrying for nothing. She says Barbara probably has nothing to fear about the marriage. She also says Barbara's story about a talking rabbit and a monster named Bogey sounds amazing, and maybe one day she'll turn it into a book. Then she locks Barbara inside a room and walks away. Barbara's heart breaks all over again. She sits there sadly, feeling completely hopeless. Then Bulby appears and tells her to blow the copper whistle so Bogey and the rabbit can come rescue her. Barbara tries to use the whistle, but it slips from her hand and falls down into the sewer below the building. With no other choice left, Bulby flies off on his own to find Bogey and warn him that Barbara is in danger. The rabbit and Bogey soon discover that their cave has been set on fire. Furious, the rabbit wants to hunt down the people responsible and teach them a lesson. But Bogey chooses something else. He heads straight to the city to save Barbara. He climbs to the top of the building, smashes through a window, and enters the room where Barbara is trapped. The moment she sees him, she is overjoyed. The two quickly try to escape together, but before they can leave, the manager and several guards block their path with guns. The manager orders Barbara to go back into the room. Hearing that makes Bogey furious, and he lets out a massive roar. Terrified, the manager starts shooting at him, but then Edwardine steps in and stops the attack. She lets Barbara and Bogey leave safely. The manager angrily asks why she let the princess go, saying they just lost all the reward money. Edwardina smiles and says he's a fool. They just witnessed a princess and a monster in love with each other, and that story is worth far more than any reward. She says they'll make a fortune by turning Barbara and Bogey's romance into books. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Stephen and the servants secretly steal a robot crystal and use it to bring Theodore back to life. Together, they free Elijah from the cage. Elijah has also created a super remote control to stop Joyce. At the same time, Joyce and his robot army arrive at the life water pond. They begin filling giant tanks with the magical water. Bogey soon arrives there with Barbara, but Joyce uses a crane to capture Bogey. Bogey struggles to break free, but the robots shock him with electricity and keep him under control. Then Joyce orders the robots to cut off Bogey's horns. Barbara panics and desperately offers Joyce a deal. She says if he lets Bogey and the rabbit go, she will gladly marry him. That is exactly what Joyce wanted, so he stops the robots from cutting Bogey's horns. Just then, Elijah arrives and tries to warn Joyce about Mother Nature and the danger of abusing the life water. But Joyce refuses to listen and orders the robots to attack him. Elijah uses his super remote and shuts down the entire robot army at once. Joyce's robotic arm stops working too. With no other option left, Joyce pours life water onto his arm, instantly healing it. Then he realizes the water can increase his power, so he uses a pump to cover his entire body with life water. Within moments, he transforms into a giant rock monster. He insults Mother Nature and demands that she kneel before him. That enrages her, and a massive vortex opens above the pond. Joyce gets sucked into the vortex, but before going in, he grabs Barbara and drags her in with him. Bogey immediately jumps into the vortex to save her. Joyce becomes trapped between the crane and falling rocks. Taking the chance, Barbara runs to Bogey. Elijah ties a rope around a pillar, allowing Bogey and Barbara to climb out of the vortex safely. Joyce tries to escape too, but the water bottle smashes into his face and knocks him deeper into the vortex. Mother Nature drags him underground, and the vortex finally closes. Then, all the remaining life water disappears beneath the earth. But when the life water vanishes, every being powered by crystals begins to die, including the rabbit. Even worse, Barbara also had a crystal heart inside her. She suddenly collapses and begins to die as well. Elijah tearfully reveals the truth. When Barbara was born, she was very sick, and he had no other choice. He created a crystal heart to save her life. He also says he has always regretted that he could not save her mother. Barbara tells him she misunderstood him all these years. She thought he was cruel, when in reality he had always cared for her. She apologizes for ruining her mother's dress just to upset him. Then, in his arms, Barbara dies. Elijah breaks down in tears. Seeing Barbara and the rabbit die right in front of him crushes Bogey completely. Bogey calls out to Mother Nature. He says he protected the forest for years just as she wanted. If a life must be taken today, then she should take his instead, but spare Barbara and everyone else. Suddenly, another vortex opens. Its energy turns Bogey into a stone statue. But at the same time, Barbara, the rabbit, and everyone powered by crystals come back to life. Barbara never forgets Bogey. Every single day, she returns to the forest to visit his statue. Moved by her true love, Mother Nature fills the pond with life water once again. Because of that, Bogey comes back to life, but this time as a human. Barbara is overwhelmed with happiness and runs to hug him. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to share it with your friends and subscribe for more amazing movie recaps.